back on Marching to Madness this morning with a special guest, a first-time guest from the Summit League, Coach Todd Lee of the South Dakota Coyotes, 47-40 in 3 years at USD. And you're going to bring back several players, Coach, that it should, I think, maybe put you in the hunt for the Summit title once again.
Yeah, we do bring back a good number of players. AJ Plitzuweit led us in scoring in the Summit League last year. Unfortunately, the second to last game, he had a severe knee injury. Maybe the worst injury I've seen in college basketball. He tore 3 ligaments and dislocated his knee, and he's going to be out this year. It's going to be a 16-month rehab. For the fans out there, it would be similar to the Sean Livingston injury, if you remember that a long time ago, or Teddy Bridgewater in football. And so, in fact, his surgeon was Teddy Bridgewater's surgeon. And so AJ's a tough young man. He's a great player, was a first-team all-league point guard for us, only as a sophomore last year. And but unfortunately, he's not going to be able to play this year. But we do bring back a very good nucleus of players, a balance of scoring. But we're definitely going to miss AJ.
Yeah, as you look at losing a player like that, then we had, of course, the pandemic. I mean, the legends live on. Every school's got its own journey with that. And then the transfer portal. So there's a lot of challenges being out here in the last year and a half. I was just curious, as you went about your day-to-day business as the head coach, how were you able to work around the pandemic and do that well last season?
Well, early, it really affected us. We had a number of games canceled. We were in an MTE event with Iowa where we were going to get 3 home games, and that got canceled. We also had another home game canceled. So, because if you remember, the NCAA moved the season, back a little bit. So we had a number of home games early, and they all got canceled. And then we had a good number of players that were either in quarantine or did get COVID, and so they were out. To give you an example, AJ Plitzuweit was in quarantine for 36 days in the fall. We had a young man that was in quarantine for 52 days. And we had a number of players that were in quarantine for a long time. And it ended up where we went on the road. Our first game was at Kansas State in their tournament. And we played Colorado and Drake to start the season. Well, both of them, as you know, were NCAA tournament teams. And we had AJ Plitzuweit and Brady Hyman, who was starting at center for us. Both of them came off 14 days of quarantine and had 2 days to prepare practice. And we went out and played Colorado and Drake back-to-back games. We were not ready to start the season. Physically, we were just not ready. And then from the middle of November, we did not have until the end of the season, we did not have a positive COVID test from the coaching staff or players. And so then we were able to string practices together and have our whole group there from the middle of November. And once we hit that, we had a great start to the league season. We won 9 games in a row, which was first time ever in our history to start the season that way. And we won 10 Division I games in a row. And so we really, once we ended up getting healthy and everybody started to practice, as I said, from the middle of November until the end of the year, we did not have a positive COVID test. So we were able to practice. We did end up canceling 1 game against Oral Roberts because we did have a positive test, but it ended up being a false positive. We beat Oral Roberts here, and then we in our league, we were played back-to-back. That was Saturday, Sunday. We beat them on Saturday. AJ had 37 points, and Max Asmus, the leading scorer in the country, had 36. It was one of the best college basketball games I've seen. Yeah. And but then the next morning, one of our assistant coaches tested positive, but then ended up being false positive. So you had to deal with the testing. That was, 3 times a week. You're always getting tested. There were protocols put in place as far as how many people you could have in a room, how many people you could have in your locker room, film room. There was a lot of different things going on, but our administration did a great job. Our training staff did a great job. And I think our team really did a good job of handling it.
Certainly. And you guys, after I'm sure you got started, you wind up 8th in the country in 3-point percentage. I was just curious about your philosophy in implementing the 3 ball, and then talk a little bit about, being able to do it at that level.
Well, the Summit League every year, if you look at it, leads the country in 3-point field goal percentage. And it's really not even close. We're and leads the country in scoring. It is a very, very good offensive league. And we have we try to recruit skilled, good size. And even if you have to, you want to take the best athletes you can get, but our league is full of really skilled, tough, good size for position players. And to give you an example, Oral Roberts, which ended up being a Sweet 16 team, finished 4th in our league last year. So it's a very good league. Now, there wasn't much difference between the 4th and the 1st place team because we were 1st from start to finish until AJ got hurt. But South Dakota State beat us on percentage points. You have to shoot the ball well in our league. It's extremely well coached, like most leagues are. But it's a very skilled league. And if you don't shoot the 3, I'll give you an example. I came from the WAC, and I was at Grand Canyon with Coach Marley. And the WAC was more athletic than the Summit League. But there seemed to be 2 or 3 guys on the floor every time that you didn't have to guard. In the Summit League, you're guarding at least 4 and sometimes 5 guys that can shoot the 3. And we've got post players that step out to shoot it. All the guards and wings can really shoot it. So we work on it a lot. We compete at it a lot in practice. And if you don't shoot it well in our league, you're not going to be successful.
Well, you had, like we mentioned, AJ, I think at 19 points per game, but you had Stanley Umude, who transferred to Arkansas. He's a total presence there. As I was reading after him, a very versatile, solid inside-out game. Just talk a little bit about how you think he'll translate, in the SEC.
Well, the one thing that'll be, Stan can really score the ball, and he's got a great mid-range game. He's got the ability to really get on rolls. To give you an example, we beat South Dakota State at the Pentagon last year, and he had 41 points and played an unbelievable game. And he has the ability to string baskets together in bunches. Now, that being said, our league is not as athletic as the SEC, clearly. And that's going to be an adjustment for him because athletically he was the best in our league. Now he's going to go to that level, and he's going to face guys that has his athletic ability, but also and not just one guy on the floor. I mean, the SEC obviously is very athletic. So, but Stan is a very good player, very good offensive player, a very good athlete. And it will be interesting. And we've talked to him about it. He's going to have to contribute in other ways because Muss has guys that can score the ball. We relied on him to score the ball here. He's going to have to be a better defender, better rebounder for Muss. And that was something we always emphasized with him here. In our league, he could score, and there was nobody on the floor as athletic as him.
You're going to return 2 guards there to the backcourt, Xavier Fuller and Mason Archambault. Talk a little bit about their games and, what they have been working on here in the summer that's going to probably translate into you being a better product, in the fall.
I think we've got actually three, Kruz, Perrott-Hunt, Mason Archambault, and Xavier Fuller. That all are going to have to step up and be more scorers this year for us, which I think they will. Mason and Xavier Fuller both were first-year guys in our program last year. We had 11 new guys last year also. They were two of them. And now they've gone through a season. They know the system. They know the league. Both of them now, when they went back home for a little while, knew what to work on. They knew where they're going to get their shots in our system. And they've improved a lot. And so Xavier Fuller has a chance to be a really great player. His dad was a Division I basketball player. His brother played at Iowa and USC. He's working on his three ball because he's really good around the basket, scoring mid-range. He worked on shooting the three more consistently. Mason got a lot stronger and more athletic, and he'll play the 1 and the 2 for us next year, but he can really, or this year, he can really shoot it. Knows how to play. And then Kruz is just kind of a jack of all trades. He plays anywhere from 1 to 4 for us. And I know he's not real big at the 4, but sometimes he's strong enough to guard 4s in our league. And he's going to have an excellent year this year. He led the league in 3-point field goal percentage last year for most of the year. And so we do have those veteran guards back. They're all going to improve offensively. We're going to have to run more offense for them. And we expect all three of them to have a great year.
You have a player from Greece, Tassos Kamateros. He started all of your games, set career highs last year, both in points and rebounds. From what I read and what I saw, he has an incredible work ethic.
He does. And he's just like really all our guys, great student, great work ethic. Tassos came to us as a walk-on, and he could barely dunk the basketball. And so, but at the end of his freshman year, we were playing him because he's really tough. And he, as you said, he's got a great work ethic. He's really smart. He now has learned the system. It's his second year in the program. After his freshman year, I brought him in the office and I told him I was going to give him a scholarship. It was the greatest day of his life, according to him. He came here and his family made many financial sacrifices for him to walk on here. And when I gave him the scholarship, he didn't even know what to say. And he went out and called his dad, and he had tears in his eyes, and he was telling his dad he got a scholarship. So then he went home and we talked about he needs to change his body. He needs to get more athletic quicker. And you just tell Tassos what to do and he does it. So he went home last year and he got quicker. He got more athletic. He's dunking the ball easy. He's much quicker on the perimeter, guarding people. And he's just a tough young man. He can guard the post. At the end of the year, middle of the year, he wasn't shooting the ball very well, but one of the best things he does is shoot the basketball. So at the end of the year, we worked with him and told him, look, you're going to have to shoot the 3. If you're open, shoot it. He ended up shooting the ball great at the end of the year, made a lot of threes. And he's going to have a great year for us this year. He's a leader, tough young man, great work ethic. All he does is care about the team, his teammates. And he's in much better shape than he was even last year. So, and now he's been in the system for 2 years, and his leadership is going to have to take hold because we need him to step up this year.
I'm sure with the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA title and the way Giannis Antetokounmpo played, he was front row and center for watching all of that, right?
Yeah, he actually tweeted out a video about congratulations, and 2 guys from Athens, Greece, and obviously he's very proud of that.
Sure. Just point, we've been talking about the NBA playoffs on here with our coaches all summer. Just wondering your take on the Suns and Bucks. I thought it was refreshing to see 2 teams that were built come and play for this title, rather than just players like we see with the Lakers and Nets just trying to jump to places where they're already fortified with all-stars.
I thought it was great for that. They both were built from the ground up. You know, Giannis and Middleton were drafted, and I think their first year they had the worst record in the NBA, and they just stuck together.
Yeah,
and they did a great job. And you're right. I think it's refreshing for the league to have two teams that were built through the draft. Obviously, Chris Paul was a big pickup for the Suns. I lived in Phoenix for 5 years. I lived through they went to the NBA playoffs for 15 straight years when Jerry Colangelo was running it and Dan Marley was playing. And then they went through this really bad stretch, but they drafted Devin Booker, they drafted Ayton, they've got some other young guys, and obviously Chris Paul being a pickup was big for him. But you're right, both teams are in smaller markets. Both teams were built through the draft. Both teams have players that have gone through a lot of losing seasons, and every year just got a little bit better and better. And I think that is great for the NBA, as opposed to the teams that are put together, the super teams, and guys just move around. And, you know, back in the day, we're both old enough, you know, we used to watch the Pistons beat up on the Bulls.
Yeah.
And the Bulls were like their little brother for a number of years. And they just stuck together, and then kept adding a little bit of, you know, some pieces. But, you know, Michael and Scottie Pippen, they all stuck together, and then they became the king of the hill. And, you know, and that's how it was with the Celtics and the Lakers, the Pistons, the Bulls. Those teams were always sticking together, and they just got better every year, and obviously had great players. But yeah, I think it's great for the NBA.
Yeah. And coming back to the college game here, the NIL, I was just curious about your perception of it, and then your perception of it as a coach in a one bid league. I mean, Nick Saban came out and said that his quarterback is at a 7 figures with endorsements. I mean, that's unfathomable. But I'm really glad to see this happen, because these kids are way overdue for some help and things.
Yeah, and it's outside money. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of talk about paying players, and should we give them more? And we give them a cost of attendance, and we're lucky enough to be able to do that. But that's still not enough. But as you know, the NCAA and colleges, we have a lot of sports that are non-revenue sports. They cost a lot of money. And we are an amateur organization, but these young men and women work extremely hard. And if somebody wants to give them an opportunity to represent a company or represent themselves, I think they should be able to do that. I think it is long overdue. I'm still trying to figure out how it's going to affect our level. It's not going to be the same as maybe the Power 5 schools, but we've got to figure out how we can help our student athletes take advantage of this and represent themselves, and hopefully it does help them. And as I said, and I don't know all the money, where it all goes. I know most of it comes from the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of sports that every school has that are non-revenue sports that cost a lot of money. And I think that's what college should be about. Student athletes going to school to get a degree, representing their school, playing at different sports. And as you well know, most all of them don't go on and play professional sports. They go on and end up being professionals in other avenues. So I do think it is good. We're still trying to figure out how it's going to affect us at the mid-major level. But we need to be out in front and
Mhm.
figure it out because it's coming. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I think it is long overdue, and I think it's good for the student athletes.
Last thing, Coach, as you're a first-time guest on here, I just wanted to ask you if you would develop, some of the people, that helped you get to the point where you are a D1 head coach there at South Dakota.
I've been extremely blessed to work with great coaches. I worked my first job was with Hank Egan, and he was the head coach at the Air Force Academy for 13 years. He's the head coach at the University of San Diego, and he coached a young man named Greg Popovich.
Oh,
and Pop hired Hank from the University of San Diego, and Hank won an NBA title with the Spurs as an assistant coach. Randy Bennett was on that staff, so Randy and I started together.
He's been on the show,
yeah. What he's done at St. Mary's, I think is, and this is not an overstatement. I think it's the best job anybody's done in the western part of the country, and maybe in the whole country, turning that program into a perennial top 25, 30 program in the country every year. So I got to work with Hanky and Randy Bennett. Then I got to work 2 years with Eric Musselman in the CBA.
Yeah.
And I tell people that's like getting a master's in basketball because we played 56 games plus the playoffs. Eric was an unbelievable coach and leader, and he knew where everybody in the world was playing basketball. He's very smart. And in that league, you have to know where everybody's playing because you're constantly losing players to the NBA or going overseas. We had the best record in the league both years I was there. We went deep into the playoffs both years. So I got to work so that's my start. And then I got with Pat Douglas at Cal State Bakersfield. He was the best Division II coach in the country. He won 3 national championships in 5 years. He ended up taking me with him to UC Irvine, and I was the associate head coach at UC Irvine with Pat Douglas, and we won back-to-back league titles in the Big West for the first time in school history. So I've worked with all those great coaches, and then I got to work with Dan Marley at Grand Canyon University. And Coach Marley's a great coach. Not only did he play 14 years in the NBA, in 13 of those years he went to the playoffs. He is an excellent coach, one of the brightest minds I've been around. And I got to help him build that program at Grand Canyon for 5 years. And our third year there as a transitioning D2 to D1, we won 27 games. In our first year we were eligible. We went to the championship of the WAC, and New Mexico State beat us in the championship game. And then I got this opportunity to come back to my alma mater, where I'm from, South Dakota. All my family lives in Sioux Falls, just an hour up the road. My mom still comes to all the games, and my brother and sister, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, they all live in Sioux Falls, so I get to see my family. I've been all over the country, but I've worked for some great coaches. I've been very blessed and fortunate to be able to work with not only great coaches, great people. And that's how I ended up. For a long time, I was an assistant coach or associate head coach, and this is my first D1 job. I was a head coach at Kentucky Wesleyan College for 8 years, a school that has won 8 national championships at D2. And I was able to coach against some great coaches in that league, the GLVC. It was Southern Indiana, Northern Kentucky, Bellarmine, Drury, Indianapolis. I mean, that league was the best Division II league in the country. And I was able to coach against great coaches for 8 years and great programs. And we won a lot of games, and we were number 1 in the country. And I was very fortunate to be able to get my first head coaching job there and be able to learn how to coach.
Coach Todd Lee, ladies and gentlemen, out in South Dakota with the Coyotes. Coach, it's been a pleasure. I hope we can do this again at some point, maybe down, closer to the season after you got your kids in and you're like looking at game 1 or 2. Thanks a lot for coming on here.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Let's do it again, and we'll talk as we get closer to the season.